faster file navigation, smarter screenshots, a security vulnerability that could infect your computer with just one click, and an important warning about fake websites stealing data. These are just some of the things we'll be discussing about Linux Mint in this video. All of these updates were officially announced in the May 2026 monthly news post on the official Linux Mint blog and will be added to Linux Mint 23, which is scheduled to launch later this year. Whether you're new to Linux Mint or just curious, stick around, I'll break it all down for you. The first thing you notice when you open Linux Mint is the file manager called Nemo. It's the equivalent of Windows Explorer on Windows. In the current version, Cinnamon 6.6, there was a small 200 millisecond delay every time you opened a folder. 200 milliseconds sounds extremely small, basically a fifth of a second, and yet once you become aware of it, you start to feel it with every click. The new version elegantly fixes this issue. Instead of applying the same delay in every situation, Nemo will analyze the context and display folder contents immediately whenever possible. The result is a much smoother and more responsive experience. If you've ever used an older computer and felt like everything moves very slowly, you'll immediately appreciate this change. Also in Nemo, the interactive search system has been improved. The previous feature worked, but it wasn't very visible or comfortable to use. Before, if you opened a folder and started typing, a small text box would appear in the bottom right corner of the screen, and the view would jump to the first matching result. You had to use the arrow keys to move between results without having a clear overview. Now things have changed significantly. When you start typing, a visible search bar appears at the top of the window, and the folder no longer shows all its contents. Instead, it automatically filters everything to display only the files and folders that match what you've typed. At first glance, it may seem like a small improvement, but it makes everyday navigation much more pleasant. Linux Mint will receive its own built-in screenshot tool. If you're not familiar with the term, a screenshot is a picture of what appears on your monitor at a given moment. It's extremely useful when you want to show someone what something looks like on your computer, report a problem, or save important information. The new tool comes with several interesting features. First, you can take screenshots of a single window with or without its shadow. The shadow is that subtle visual effect around windows that gives them a three-dimensional look. Sometimes you want to include it for a more aesthetic result, other times you want a clean image without it. You can also, if you have multiple monitors connected to your computer, choose to capture all screens at once, or only a single one. This is a feature many users have been requesting for a long time. In addition, after taking a screenshot, you can crop it directly within the tool before saving or copying it. This means you no longer need a separate image editor to remove unwanted parts. Everything happens in one place. Under the hood, developers have put a lot of effort into making screenshots look clean and consistent, regardless of the type of window being captured. There are two main types of windows, technically called CSD and SSD. Without going into too much technical detail, the difference lies in how window borders and shadows are rendered. The new tool handles both types correctly, which previously was a source of small visual inconsistencies. Have you ever seen that small window that appears when a program asks you for confirmation about something? For example, when you want to delete a file and your computer asks you, "Are you sure?" Or when an application requests your password. These windows are called dialogs. In the current version of Cinnamon, these dialogs had a few visual issues. The buttons were too tightly packed together with no spacing, the title wasn't properly aligned, the icons looked too subtle for the seriousness of the message, and the title bar was empty and unnecessary. The new version fixes all of these problems. Dialogs will look cleaner, clearer, and will draw the user's attention more effectively. It's important that when your computer asks you to make a decision, you immediately understand what is happening and what options you have. Another new feature related to dialogs is that they can now be moved around the screen with the mouse. It sounds simple, but it's an extremely useful practical detail. If a dialogue appears exactly over information you need in order to answer it, you can simply drag it to another part of the screen, read what you need, and then come back to respond. Previously, you had to close the dialogue or navigate using the keyboard. The visual appearance of an operating system matters. Many people spend hours in front of their computers, and a pleasant visual environment reduces fatigue and makes the experience more enjoyable. Linux Mint uses a theme called Mint Y, which comes in both light and dark variants. The dark version has received improvements in terms of colors and contrast, making it easier to read. Another aesthetic detail you may not notice immediately, but will definitely feel. Window frames and scrollable areas were previously completely rectangular with sharp corners. The new version slightly rounds them, similar to buttons and drop-down menus that were already rounded. This is a subtle but unifying change that makes the entire interface feel more coherent and modern. The Mint Y, Mint L, and Mint X themes will now use a unified icon set for GTK Dialogs, which means that when you open a file from an application, the file picker dialog will use the same icons as the Nemo file manager. Visual consistency is a sign of a well-polished system. Cinnamon adds support for WPA3 and OWE. If these terms don't mean anything to you, that's completely normal. In short, WPA3 is the latest and most secure Wi-Fi security standard introduced in 2018 by the Wi-Fi Alliance. OWE stands for Opportunistic Wireless Encryption, which means that even public Wi-Fi networks without a password can provide a basic level of encryption for your traffic. If you have a modern router at home that supports WPA3, Linux Mint will now be able to connect to it using this more secure protocol. This is good news for the security of your personal data. This is a topic I want to treat seriously because it concerns the safety of your computer. A serious vulnerability was discovered in XReader, the default PDF reader in Linux Mint. The vulnerability allowed a malicious PDF file to execute code on your computer. All you had to do was open that PDF and click on a link inside it. The good news is that the vulnerability was quickly fixed. If you are using version 4.6.4 or newer of XReader, you are protected. This incident is a good example of why security updates are so important. I know that sometimes we are tempted to postpone updates because they seem annoying or because we don't want to interrupt what we're doing. But these updates exist precisely to close such security gaps. Linux Mint has a simple and visible update notification system. Please don't ignore it. The final topic this month is perhaps the most important for those who are new to Linux. The Linux Mint team is warning about a scam campaign that affects not only Linux Mint, but many open source software projects. Malicious actors are creating fake websites that imitate the official websites of well-known applications. Their goal may be to make money from traffic, steal your personal data, or infect your computer with viruses and ransomware. Ransomware is a type of malware that encrypts your files and demands payment to restore access. It is one of the most destructive types of cyber attacks. For example, the Warpinator application, which is part of the Linux Mint ecosystem, has been impersonated on fake domains. The same happened with Hypnotix, the IPTV application in Linux Mint. The Linux Mint team's advice is simple and extremely valuable. Never download software from websites you are not absolutely sure are official. This applies even if you recognize the application name, and even if it is open source. Open source software can still be packaged into a malicious installer by anyone. Linux has a much safer software distribution system than searching on Google and downloading a file from the first result. This system is called a repository or package repository. In practice, Linux Mint comes with an application called the Software Manager, which allows you to install any application directly from verified sources digitally signed by the distribution team. This is the correct way to install software on Linux, not by searching the web and downloading manually, but through official repositories. Simple, secure, fast. These are the main new features that Linux Mint is preparing for the version set to be released at the end of this year. A faster file manager, a more intuitive search, a more complete screenshot tool, clearer dialogues, a more modern visual theme, support for more secure Wi-Fi, and a few important security lessons. If you are just starting out and have recently installed Linux Mint or are thinking about doing so, I hope this video gave you a clearer picture of what this operating system looks like and where it is heading. It is a well-maintained, serious project built with care for the everyday user. Thank you to all the channel members. Your support means a lot to me and helps keep the channel going. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, a like and a share help the channel grow a lot. See you in the next video.